Welcome to Secret Affairs. In today's video, what I'm about to share is not just a story. It's a descent into quiet betrayal, unspoken warnings, and the kind of psychological pressure that can turn an ordinary life into something unrecognizable. My name is Larry, and although I've never considered myself special, my journey took me into depths I never expected to witness. I'm 57 now, okay? I own a garage, not a chain, not a franchise, just one shop that I built from the ground up. That place isn't just a building. It's the physical proof of every swing of the hammer, every long night, and every choice I made since I was 17. Back then, I was an apprentice in my uncle's repair shop. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But there's a quiet pride in building something with your hands, especially when you start with nothing. For 8 years I worked, saved, worked more, and saved again. I watched other kids my age take vacations, buy new clothes, show off with their first cars, and meanwhile, I was wrenching until midnight, hands cracked, back sore, dreaming of a place I could call mine. When I finally opened the garage, it wasn't much. It's a single lift, a rusty sign, a small loan. It's me, young and stubborn enough to believe I could make it work. The first years were brutal. There were weeks I barely made enough to keep the lights on. But consistency has a strange power. When everything in you says stop and you keep going anyway, something eventually shifts. After decades, the garage grew into something I could stand in front of with pride. People trusted me, respected the work, and the business became stable. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. But my life was more than nuts and bolts. There was Riley. I met her at an auto show. She was in college at the time, wandering between displays, taking pictures for some project. We struck up a conversation, and it felt natural, effortless, like we'd known each other much longer than the 10 minutes we'd spent talking. Before we parted ways, we exchanged numbers. Long distance wasn't easy, but we made it work. We stayed up late talking on the phone, sometimes for hours, sometimes saying nothing at all, just existing in the same emotional space. Months passed before she visited me in person. When she did, everything clicked. You know that feeling when you meet someone and your gut just knows? That's what it was like. But life has a funny way of testing people at their most vulnerable moments. Riley lost her parents unexpectedly. Emotionally, financially, she was stranded. She was determined to finish school, but couldn't afford it anymore. I didn't hesitate. Covered her tuition, living expenses, books, everything. I didn't do it for gratitude. Kai did it because when you love someone, you lift them when they can't stand. 5 years later, she moved in, degree in hand, ready to take on the world as a lawyer. She found a local firm. We built our routine. On weekends, we hiked. We laughed. We argued. We made up. We lived, really lived. One Sunday afternoon, at the top of a hill overlooking the city, she surprised me by proposing. I wasn't expecting it. Said yes. She slipped a ring on my finger and said, "You're mine forever." 3 weeks later, we were married. We had 2 kids, Maria and James. Great kids. Smart, kind, independent. One in college, one shredding guitar in a local rock band. I was proud of them, proud of our home, and proud of the life we built. For nearly 2 decades, I believed things were stable, routine, predictable, safe. And then the shift began. Anyone who's been married long enough can tell when something is off. I knew her patterns. I'd seen her joy, her frustration, her stress, her excitement. So when she took a new job at a prestigious firm and her behavior changed abruptly, I noticed the late nights. The new confidence layered with subtle arrogance. The different tone in her voice. The name she kept slipping into conversations. Robert, her new boss. I didn't jump to conclusions. I watched. I listened. I waited. 3 months I gave her. 3 months of carefully observing what didn't add up. Eventually, the truth presented itself. One night, when the weight of suspicion finally exceeded my patience, I confronted her. No shouting, no theatrics. Just a simple question and a long silence. Her defenses cracked, and then she admitted it. She had been involved with her boss. Even when you're prepared for the possibility, hearing the truth hits harder than you expect. But the confession wasn't the part that cut me deepest. It was her explanation, or what she called an explanation. She said I was the same man I'd always been, that I never evolved, never polished myself, never climbed the social ladder, that I was stuck in that garage and she needed someone who commanded respect, someone people admired, someone like Robert. It's strange how 20+ years of loyalty, sacrifice, and partnership can be reduced to a handful of cruel sentences. She listed superficial things: my clothes, my job, my simplicity. She spoke like a stranger rehearsing lines fed by someone else. Then she delivered the real threat. If I didn't accept her decision, she said she'd destroy me. She'd use the firm's influence to take everything: the business, the house, even the stability I'd worked my entire life for. She said it with the coldness of someone reading a script. I remember the stillness in that moment. Not anger, clarity, the kind of clarity that comes when you see a person without the mask they've worn for decades. I walked away without another word. The next morning she called her boss. She didn't know I could hear her from the hallway before I left for work. Her voice was trembling. She told him I knew. He wasn't worried, just annoyed. He told her they had already planned everything. It would push legal pressure on me, overwhelm me, corner me. He said men like me break easily. But I listened quietly, without reacting. People often mistake silence for weakness. They underestimate the man who waits instead of explodes. What neither of them understood was simple. I wasn't a man who fought with emotion. I fought with patience, strategy, and restraint. Riley didn't see it. Robert definitely didn't see it. And so the game began. Robert was everything you'd expect from a man who built power through words and signatures. He believed respect came from influence, from paperwork, from the weight of a title on a business card. He spoke with confidence, as if every sentence had been pre-approved by a board of directors. When he talked, he did it like a man who expected the world to agree with him. But confidence is fragile when it's not backed by substance. While Riley spiraled, Robert rehearsed their narrative, the one they had planned to use on me. They framed my dedication as stagnation, my loyalty as ignorance, my patience as weakness. It didn't matter to them that I had supported her dreams, paid for her education, and built a life she thrived in. To them, that was irrelevant. What mattered was who appeared more sophisticated. But underneath their arrogance, there was fear, small at first, hidden, but growing. Days passed, then weeks. Then came the day Robert decided to confront me in person. He arrived unannounced at my garage, stepping inside with the confidence of a man who believed his status alone made him untouchable. He spoke in that clipped, rehearsed tone lawyers often use, laying out his version of reality. He talked about legal strategies, restraining orders, property control, and account freezes. He brought paperwork. He acted like everything was already decided, like my life was a case file he could archive with a signature. But he miscalculated his environment. He expected a man already broken, a man pleading, a man defeated before the conversation even started. He didn't expect what he got instead: calmness. Real calmness terrifies people like Robert, people who depend on intimidating others with words. When someone stands there, unmoving, unshaken, listening closely but showing nothing, it rattles them. And it rattled him. His voice wavered mid-sentence. His confidence flickered. His practiced speech began to fall apart. He was expecting a storm of anger, not a silence that swallowed his arrogance whole. I didn't threaten him. I didn't lash out. I didn't raise my voice. But I asked him a single question, one so simple it shifted the entire balance of the conversation. Are you sure you understand the consequences of what you're doing? He didn't. That much was obvious. His eyes darted. His posture shifted. People who rely on manipulation often crumble when confronted with a type of strength they can quantify. Before he left, the fear in his expression was unmistakable. He realized something important. He wasn't dealing with the man Riley described. He wasn't dealing with someone easy to corner. He wasn't dealing with someone he could psychologically dismantle. He wasn't dealing with someone intimidated by legal threats. He was dealing with someone who had already survived more than he could imagine. That was the moment the dynamic shifted. From that point on, the story was no longer about betrayal. It was about pressure, psychological, emotional, strategic pressure, and how quickly people fold when the weight turns back onto them. Riley's world, once polished and composed, began to unravel. Robert's confidence fractured. And I simply kept moving forward, steady as ever. Because the truth is, suspense doesn't come from shouting or chaos. It comes from silence, from control, from watching the people who once underestimated you begin to understand the enormity of their mistake. And that was only the beginning.